I will show you a quick method to double check your timing. First we will check with root motion and then without root motion. I've already made a quick timing pass in the previous video without explaining it because it wasn't very good. The idea was just to check the flow of the different poses, but you don't need to work on the timing for this. Now it's the timing path before I switch to spline. So to check it, since I have root motion, I've kept my root activated. And I will now simply use my quick favorite menu to calculate the motion path of the root bone, setting it from frame 0 to frame 12. This way I will be able to see the spacing of my root bone between the different poses we have created. And since the root bone is supposed to have a linear motion, since we are doing a cycle, I can try to make the spacing match the timing. If we have a look to the spacing between frame 3 and frame 5, we can see that the position of the root bone hasn't changed that much. It means that since we have a linear interpolation, those two keyframes should be very close one to the other. So I will offset the frame 5 onto frame 4. Now, if I keep this mindset to analyze my spacing, I can see that from frame 0 to frame 1, I have a pretty large spacing, and I have the same spacing between frame 1 and frame 3. So I have the same spacing between those two poses, or almost the same spacing, but the timing is different. The first one is on one frame, the second one on 2 frames. So I will offset my keyframes from frame 3 to frame 2. So in the end, I'm animating those first 4 poses on once. And during the polishing stage, I will be able to revise a bit the spacing between the different parts of the body. From there, I can evaluate the distance between the frame 7 and the frame 10, and the frame 3 and the frame 7. And the spacing is quite the same as between frame 0 and frame 2. So timing wise, I think that I should have 2 frames between my airborne pose and the contacting poses. So I will move my airborne pose from frame 7 to frame 5, and then I should be moving frame 10, 11 and 12 on frame 7 or frame 8. Again, the timing and spacing of the animation will be refined during the polishing stage in spline mode. But this is a good way, if you can't feel your timing, to check it out. Try to make it logical. And it does showcase again that having a detail blocking can really help the animation process. If you have animated your character without moving the root bone, then use the features of your character that are contacting the tree trunk to guess the spacing. When I check the back right foot of my character, I have the same spacing between frame 0 and 1 and between frame 1 and 3. So I can choose to move the pose number 3 onto frame number 2. And when I see the difference of spacing between the current pose and the next one, it's even smaller, so this change of position should happen within 1 frame, even less than 1 frame. So I will move it onto frame 3. Then I want my character to float a bit, so I will keep him airborne for 2 frames, for example. I can track the front hands to see the difference of spacing between those 2 frames. And I believe that this airborne position will be the extreme, so it will be quite off right in the middle of the jump. So I can move frame 10 and all the next poses onto frame 7. So in the end, during our blocking stage, we have created almost a pose for each frame. And this is because we are working on the fast motion animation. And this will happen when you work on combat animation, for example, where your character changes poses very fast. You can't keep an empty frame if there is a lot of movement that happened in this frame. You will have to detail your blocking. The good news here is that it's going to be way easier to polish this animation.